Welcome to this short video which gives an overview of the Kairos movement, what we believe, how we work together, and how you might consider becoming part of us. Kairos is a movement for those hungry to live differently. We ache for a transformed world and seek to do so in a more balanced, life-affirming way. We are a network of dispersed individuals. We gather in person, and those gatherings are focused in the Yorkshire area, but our online gatherings have no borders. We seek to imagine church for those who are spiritually hungry in new ways. Our aim is to connect and belong. We've got Methodist roots, but Kairos is a network of spiritual pilgrims of all denominations and none, who supplement our in-person relationships with modern technology to enable us to gather, to grow, to mission, worship, and simply enjoy life to a fuller way. We have this idea in Kairos of breathing in and breathing out, which we'll explain later. Our primary gathering is small grassroots groups, but we also have many opportunities for change maker groups, for people who share a passion to make a positive difference to others. So that's the overview, the nuts and bolts. And I hope this, as we continue, will give you a way of grasping what we do, how and why. And we're going to look at our aims and values as we go through our video together. So first of all, you see by my head, we've got exploring. We'll come to that in a minute. You see behind my head our aims. Our primary overarching aim is to flourish. And the flourishing of both those involved in Kairos, but also those in the communities and the world we live in. We look to Jesus offering a template for someone who flourished body, mind, and spirit. And we've broken this idea of flourishing down into three ways in which we might think and reflect on our flourishing. These are becoming, relating, and exploring, elements of which you'll find present in our Kairos movement tree logo. In Kairos, we have this notion of breathing in and breathing out. The breathing in, like the roots of the tree, being those things which nurture us, that energize us, that enable us to build reserves and to grow, that give us energy. The breathing out being those things where we interact with our world, where we share our gifts, where we bless others, where we encourage others, where we try and make a difference. It's very easy when we're considering a spiritual group of any kind to just focus down on the spiritual aspects of breathing in and breathing out. But we're very keen at Kairos, we don't limit ourselves in that way, that we consider the whole of what a human being is about. We think about mind, body, and spirit. And so when it comes to breathing in, we're not just considering maybe our prayer life, our spiritual nurture, but also our mind. What inspires us, what makes us think and reflect, and how do we enable that for others in our breathing out? Can we share teaching and gifts and skills? In terms of body, what we eat is important, how we look after our bodies and exercise, the things that enable our bodies to be healthy. And likewise, we can use our bodies to help others physically, to be practical use, to help people who are weaker than us or need assistance in different things. And we add a third idea to this, which is that of a supportive community. That's not a unique thing to Kairos. When we look around our nation, we see great examples of people who are striving to improve themselves and do so more successfully within a supportive community. So, for example, if you're trying to lose weight, then there's nothing better than to be part of a group like Weight Watchers or Slimming World or all the equivalent, which tend to have the form of you meet weekly with people, you discuss ways in which you might achieve your goals and what they are. You're accountable to them. You weigh in together and you bemoan the failings and you support and encourage the successes, and you affirm each other each week. Likewise, parkrun. which is a way many people use to get fit, but also to build relationships with new people. A very good example of how the system relies on the partaking of everybody to encourage others. So for those perhaps who never run, there are those who will guide you in building from walking to jogging. There were those who will shepherd you. There is a rear walker or runner to make sure you're never the last one across the finish line. And there are those who everybody will share tips and wrinkles about how to develop and grow. And of course, everybody who crosses the finish line gets a huge cheer, no matter what their personal goals. That supportive community makes it the success that it is. It's my suggestion that not particularly where all these things overlap, but when all these things are in place in the right sort of measure, then we have a much more likely chance of flourishing. Not to say the things don't flourish in their exploration, in the becoming, in the relating themselves, but when these things are present, there's a much greater chance of overall flourishing for you as an individual and for us as a community. Perhaps an easy way of getting your head around what flourishing looks like is to think of those things out of balance. So, for example, if this is largely on a spiritual plane, I'm considering these things at the moment, but we will do so in each of the other planes. If you are, somebody who spends a lot of time spiritually focused, reading the Bible, prayer, meditating, but you never do that with others, and you never put that faith that you gained into action, then there's a really tangible risk that your faith and your view of God can be shaped in your own image. And if you never put it into practice and never live it out and never share with anybody else, then the question is there a limit to that view of God? When we put our faith into practice, we exercise faith and we grow in understanding. And so for all there is value there would be more value with more output and more time sharing that with others. Similarly, there are those for whom faith plays little or no part in what they do. They're social activists and maybe part of groups that seek to change our world for the better. They do real work in the real world that makes a difference. My argument would be, if that's not got a spiritual grounding, sometimes people risk burning out. If there's not a deep purpose to that work, then there's a greater danger that when hard things come, that things can fall apart because we're reliant on success and achievement maybe to continue. And there are deeper reserves to be had when we draw on our calling, on our the image of God in which we're made to do that sort of work. Hid behind me is kind of a picture of a lot of churches, I think, that where there is a faithful group of people who meet together and worship and perhaps share the Bible and pray together and discuss what God is together. But in this imbalanced picture, again, there is little outworking. Faith without works. And arguably, well, is there anything wrong with that at all? I would suggest that when we don't put our faith into action, again, we miss the value. We risk being among people who share our ideas and never encounter the other who might give us that wider perspective of God. There's just a few examples. You may not agree with my diagnosis of the imbalance, and there are many other ways in which our diagram might be imbalanced and cause issues. But I hope it's given you a way to reflect a little bit on where you are and your own faith and your own balancing. And that's really one of the exercises we encourage anyone who's considering being part of Kairos to do, and something we hope to do on at least an annual basis, if not more regularly, within our small groups, or if you prefer, an opportunity to meet with one of our sort of spiritual guidance with people like myself or our spiritual directors, to reflect on different aspects of your life, using different lenses, and think about the balance of your life. Now, I've had a go at that for myself, and what I've done here is I've used pictures, and there is no need to use pictures. You can use words to do so. But I've picked up a few of the things that within my life that I do. So in terms of my exploring, I take I have individual times of prayer and reflection, meditation. It takes different forms in different times in my life, but I undertake those on my own. I use art as a way of engaging prayerfully. It's also something that just feeds me. It feeds my creative side, even if I'm not trying to do something particularly spiritual. It feeds me, and I found it helpful because I spend a lot of time walking my dog these days to listen to podcasts, especially when I'm walking early in the morning, and listening to others share in different spheres of life. I do study the Bible on my own. I'm a Methodist minister, so I study for preaching, but I also will read it on my own. But I really value gathering with others around the Word of God, unpicking, it's said, hearing other people's reactions to it. I find that the most wonderful thing. And so that becomes in an area between myself as an explorer and relating with others. And in that same intersect, I have Nomad, which is a podcast I listen to, but then we discuss with others. I have prayer groups, and I have Divine Focus, which is our photography church. So there's an individual process in that of reflecting on photos, taking photos, and seeking their meaning with God in a prayerful time. But then we meet together and share around a theme and unpack for each other more deeply. Within the relating, I go to the cinema with a group of people. I like films. I watch them at home on kind of streaming, but I also like going out to the cinema with others and chatting about the film. Likewise, although I walk on my own quite happily, I like to go walking with others and share as we go along. That's part of my, particularly my family, do that together. But there's an intersection there within Kairos that we have walks as a movement. And part of those walks, we actively seek a moment and time of reflection. And we use a tool called Deep Talk to enable that. I also am part of two groups, the Campfire Group and the Potting Shed, which are peers who are people involved in ministry and working out their faith. And as you see, we begin to see an overlap there with the becoming aspect of what I do. And so those are places where I can reflect on my ministry, and I can help others reflect on theirs, and we support one another in that. Within the relating and becoming spheres, we have a couple of things within Kairos, the WhatsApp group, where we can share with each other, the ideas exchange, where we encourage people to come and share ideas about the evolution and shape of our movement together, and that's open to anybody and everybody. And then the becoming aspects, if I just move myself out the way a minute, for me as a Methodist minister who's also running Kairos, I have two churches that I look after, and so very naturally they're part of my engagement in the world, and they too have their own community engagement elements to them. One of those, South Bank Studios, is an art community that we host at Southlands Methodist Church, and I love spending time with them and exploring art as a means to community and a means to reflecting on life. And Planet Food is another partner we have at Southlands, who offer a waste food cafe and a waste food store, and I get to meet all sorts of wonderful people through that, as well as being part of their work to minimize the waste and protect our environment. That's not a whole picture, but an example of kind of how I've done that for myself in the sphere of ministry. It would look a little different perhaps if I thought about a different category, if I thought about mind, or I thought about body specifically, or I thought about fun as a measure. And again, it's an exercise I encourage you to do, and think of a label and try how that label looks in your life. But then Kairos itself. So Kairos as a movement seeks to have a balance within the many things that we do. Some of these things you'll recognize from what I've already shared, and I encourage you to look on our website and delve into the various things that we offer in various spheres. So we encourage community and relating. We encourage digging into our spiritual treasure troves from different sources. And we, as a movement, partner, and that's an important thing to say. So Peace Together, Selby Street Mission do not belong to Kairos, but we partner with them because we see the value in them, and so we have a covenant relationship with them. And we very much see them as a way in which we can express and bless the world and engage with people we wouldn't otherwise be able to engage with through them. Similarly, the refugee and asylum group. And we're fleshing out this diagram as we go along. Now, I really wanted to explain how that kind of makes sense and how that relates to you, having done your own diagram, and how it relates to Kairos as a movement that uses Jesus as an exemplar and in some ways might be a church in its own right. We looked earlier at our aims and our goals. These then are the values that kind of describe how we go about making those aims and goals a reality. And so one of our values, as well as our aims, is flourishing. And we measure ourselves by how much we are flourishing. When we fill in our Venn diagrams of life in balance, we ask ourselves, are we flourishing as individuals? Are we flourishing as a movement? And if we feel we're not, we work out together with the help of others how we might do so. And if we see those who are not flourishing, we seek to help them in that process. We mentioned the supportive community and that sense of belonging, that we are a community that is not just tolerant, but embracing of all manner and kinds of people. We want to reach out in love to everyone in every way, and so we each have that task of loving and caring, pastorally supporting, being there, being a person to whom we can offer a time of reflecting and listening to. Linked with that is the idea of connecting and linking and finding the people who we might journey with is not always the easy thing. And actually some of us get very stymied within our context that there aren't the people who share our passions, who share our desires for spiritual growth. We maybe want to pursue a particular spiritual discipline, like praying, singing, for example, and there are just no others around us who like that. We may have a passion for working with refugees, and there's nobody else around us who seems to share that passion, and that ministry is stymied. And so connecting others, listening, understanding the passions of one another, connecting them with people who share those values, such that new groupings, new small groups might be formed to exercise those ministries, to explore those spiritual pathways, to encourage. They may not last forever, but they may serve for a small time in just moving us forward in our journey. And I mentioned encouraging already, and that takes place in so many different ways in Kairos. We're all called to encourage one another. We don't want to leave this to the professionals, to the ministers, to those who've had the theological educations. This is about everybody who's seeking Jesus, who's trying to live a life of faith, who's trying to find a balance in life to help others equally seeking to do so. And we all have experiences in different phases and parts of life that we can help each other to do that. And so we ask that we would support one another. There are the experts, the spiritual directors, we have connections with counselors, we have people who are trained in mentoring, but really this is for all of us to help one another. So there are our values. Placed together, we hope we have all the ingredients to pursue our aims and the values in which we can make those a reality. I want to just talk a little bit more about both what Kairos is and how we might engage with it, and how it relates maybe to churches that some people may have had experience of. And the image that's come to mind in thinking about this is, as above, the Black Forest Gatto. I'm a bit of a cake lover, so maybe that's why this image came to mind. This was really popular when I was younger, in the kind of 70s, 80s. This was kind of part of every dinner, it seemed to me. It was quite exotic, and people loved it. It's, you know, the basics: cream, cherries, a bit of kirsch, maybe chocolate. What's not to love? And I have a picture of the traditional established church being a little like this, that it's kind of been thought through, it's evolved and become this wonderful mixture of ingredients that people have enjoyed, have found value in over centuries and centuries. But a little bit like the Black Forest Gatto, even though it's a wonderful dessert, it's sort of fallen out of popularity, sort of fallen out of favor with people. And for some reason, it just stopped appearing on menus, and people didn't eat it so much, maybe because it's quite calorific, I guess, but others have certainly taken its place. But what I've noticed of recent years is that it's returned in the form of a deconstructed dessert. And I've seen lots of cookery shows and seen it on menus of posh restaurants, where the ingredients have been each reimagined and represented in a new, perhaps more intense, more interesting way. But the test of a deconstructed dessert is that when you take a little of all the elements present, you get the taste of the whole cake. It tastes like a Black Forest Gatto, because that taste is still a wonderful taste. Kairos, I feel, is a little like this deconstructed gatto. What we seek to offer and present and share are all the ingredients of church that we may see, not particularly necessarily all in one denomination or stream of spiritual belonging, but drawing on a richness of tradition and approaches. And we've represented them in slightly different ways that we hope might inspire and attract people to taste them afresh. And so we've moved online with several activities, which is allowing us to reach perhaps and bring together groups of people who share a passion but have been isolated from a critical mass to get things going. We're perhaps using new techniques like the photography church to worship in different ways, although you still see some of the marks of church within what we do as a gathering. But we believe the whole still has within it, if not now, that certainly the possibility, as we continue to develop, the marks of church, the marks of the fullness of what it is to be in relationship with Jesus Christ as a group of people. But we recognize for some people that they don't want the whole of a cake. And I think that's partly behind some of the reason people don't engage with the church, the inherited church, as is. because they don't want the whole cake. They value some of it. They are intrigued by some of it, but don't want to take it packaged as it is. And so we hope for Kairos that people might be encouraged to try an element that they've never tried before, but not necessarily having to get all the elements to make the full cake from Kairos. And so, for example, if you are part of an existing faith group, church, denomination, and in that particular group of people, there's something missing for you spiritually, or maybe there's everything there for you spiritually, but there's opportunity missing to work that spirituality out, and the real world is not there, or you find there are not peers who share your values, then we hope that maybe Kairos might offer something to supplement your particular balance and your particular lack. And so, for example, we fully anticipate that lots of people might just take the cherry from Kairos. They found the chocolate soil, the cream, whatever the equivalent is, somewhere else. Maybe they're part of several churches and groups. Maybe they're part of an environmental group and a Catholic church, but they really love the use of images in worship that we explore in Kairos. Or they really want to be part of an active group that makes a difference to refugees, and they engage with that group within Kairos. We're very open to that reality and hope we can help those who feel the choice is to leave where they are and find something better, or to stick with it and feel limited. We hope we might be both as a supplement and place of refuge. But we also really hope that for those who perhaps have no faith belonging, that they'll taste each and every element of what we offer and appreciate the whole of the journey that we share together. There are all sorts of ways in which we do that, and you will find lots of them. I talked about a few of them as we went through my kind of breakout, and they keep growing. And we have the idea of a kind of a Kickstarter, the launch pad, where people can bring new ideas and share that passion, and we cast the net for others to come and join us and be part of that. Our website is kairosmovement.org.uk. Do take a look at it. Do sign up to our mailing list, and maybe we can help supplement your spiritual life, help you find a balance, help you be accountable in your journey and belong to Jesus in a new way. Thank you.